Ooh, hope you boys are ready for some nostalgia. Gonna be a lot of it today. Welcome back everybody, I am Carter Sandman, and this is the channel for Sandbox Illustration. So today I am going to be taking another trip down memory lane. Actually, this one I'm going to be doing a remake of a piece, and I'm going to be creating an original piece, but they both have the same ideas behind them. They are both around the idea of sort of commemorating myself back when I first started YouTube. And actually at one point in the video, we're also going to kind of be doing the same thing for me later on in YouTube. So I'm going to stop mincing words now. I'll just explain to you guys what I'm going to be doing in this video. So you can see on these two pages, and then on these two pages, I have plans for two different sketches. This is actually going to be the first video where I create two sketches in one video, which is why I need to keep my talking to a minimum in these. The idea is I'm going to be doing a remake of the first ever sketch that I made on YouTube back in 2014 when I was Artman239. I made a piece called Artman239 is Here, which at the bottom it had a lineup of my favorite YouTubers, and then I tried to draw like a menacing picture of me standing above them with like a grimacing smile on, and it was just captioned, "There's a new guy in town," sort of introducing my channel at the time and my first ever time on YouTube, and I wanted to recreate that today. And then my second piece is kind of an odd one. It's gonna look a bit funny to look at, but I actually want to draw a piece that sort of shows my journey through YouTube. So it's gonna have little me, medium me, and then big me. I'm just gonna put it into better context through the sketches right here. So as you can see what I am drawing right here, I am drawing a little sketch, which is gonna be the planning for my piece today, right there, as you can see, and I'm not gonna highlight it because obviously we're already in the process of making the sketch. I'm not going to worry about it. This second sketch that I'm going to do, you're going to have younger me, which is that guy right there, looking at older me, or not older me, but a couple years older me, and then current me right now is going to be standing behind them. Again, I know that that sounds like a weird premise, but I want it to show Artman239 looking up at Zeke, and then Carter Sandman of Sandbox Illustration standing behind both of them, to kind of make a cool little image showing my journey throughout all of YouTube over the past 8 years. So those are my ideas for the concepts of these sketches, and I already explained that one. There's not really anything else for this, but I'm just gonna show you guys quickly what I'm doing with the first sketch, which is the new guy in town sketch. So obviously you've got me right there, 14-year-old me, and then you have 7 YouTubers who were all my favorite YouTubers at the time, which would be Stampy Longhead, iBallistic Squid, PewDiePie, Tobuscus, Markiplier, and Ian and Anthony of Smosh fame. So that original piece had all of them lined up at the bottom, and then me standing over them like a giant evil figure, obviously just tongue-in-cheek, and I understood it at the time that way. But I think it'd be a cool idea. I like just the image in my head of like this giant of a kid with like a sword coming down on all these guys. Now in the original sketch, they were all just standing there smiling. Like it was basically just figures of them. Like they weren't doing anything, they weren't emoting, they weren't acting, it was just them, and then me standing over them. So I wanted to redo it that it actually looks like a horror scene. And I mentioned sword actually just a couple seconds ago. I have what I called the art caliber. In fact, I'm gonna put up a photo right here. This was my profile picture on my YouTube channel for a long time when my channel was Artman239. I designed this on like a dumb like tablet drawing app. And yeah, I called it the art caliber, my pencil sword. And I wanted to remake it so that it looks like an actual like menacing sword instead of this dinky little thing. But the idea that I have behind this sketch is you're gonna have all of the YouTubers running from him, and that's an extra face. I accidentally put 8 instead of 7, so ignore scared man number 8 right there with no name. You've got all the YouTubers who are gonna be running from me, looking up, and I'm gonna be standing up there in the heavens, and I'm gonna actually be driving the art caliber down into the ground. There's not much else to explain with the sketch. I just think it's gonna be hilarious to see a dinky little 14-year-old kid, and by the way, when I was 14 years old, I looked like I was 10 years old, so it's gonna be more like a 10-year-old coming down on all these YouTubers. And it'll be a fun throwback too. It's gonna be fun to draw people like PewDiePie and Markiplier from back in 2013 time and 2014 time rather than the current age. One more note that I do want to put in, like I mentioned a little bit before, that I am going to be redoing the sword to look like an actual sword, a cool sword. So I redid the blade, and it still looks like a pencil, I'd say. I redid the pommel, and I redid the blade as well to look like a new advanced one. If there is anything extra for me to say in the rest of this video, I will just put it in voiceover over the actual Let's Draws being done. I'm gonna shut up now. I don't have anything else to say. I'm ready to get going with this. Let's look at my throwback sketches. everybody, those were my throwback sketches. These were a lot of fun to do. So again, just to catch you guys up on the context, especially for Artman239 is here, this was the first ever piece that I put up onto YouTube when I first started my original channel. You guys would know it as Zeke now because I changed the name, but it was originally Artman239. So if you go all the way down to my first videos, and I have a video called My First Art Review, it is discussing what is essentially the premise of this sketch right here, except it's nowhere near as technically good or even as cool. Well, I should say, the concept is really cool. I do like the idea of it, but this one really just brings out what I wanted out of that sketch, you know? So you've got just a giant me, giant 14-year-old me, towering over all my favorite YouTubers. To go back through it, everyone that is featured in this is PewDiePie, Smosh, Tobuscus, Markiplier, Stampy Longhead, and then iBallistic Squid. And of course I had to run out of room, so if you look here, iBallistic Squid is kind of buried, and I feel bad because everyone else you can clearly see them and get a good idea at least of who they are. So that one I'm sorry about, but I just couldn't help it, you know? I only have so much room on my paper. Although I did make PewDiePie kind of huge. But I had to do that because I had to give the piece scale and depth and environment and perspective and art fundamentals. I can't think of a better word to use for it, but as you guys could see later on when I was finishing up the piece, the environment was a lot of fun to play with. I wanted to really make it look like I'm just a towering figure, and like, you know, you can see that there's dust floating through the air and little particles, and of course the art caliber looks absolutely amazing. The idea that I tried to go with was that I wanted each metal to look like a different kind of common metal, so like of course the base would be gold most likely, and then copper, and then ebony I guess, and then you got the diamonds on the pommel of it. At first it didn't seem to have like the atmosphere, I think is a better way to put it. It didn't have the atmosphere originally that I wanted out of it, but once it came to be and I experimented with some things, it really came through, and I'm extremely happy with it. And then over here, again, just a simple little piece. This one went extremely fast to make because there wasn't really anything to it. I just like seeing it. It's cool to look at, you know? I've wanted to make a piece like that for a while. In fact, I planned on making that sketch back when I was Zeke, back in 2019. So if you guys don't know, back in 2019, I took a huge break from YouTube just because I had a lot of stuff piling on, mental health issues, along with a lot more responsibilities that I was taking on, and I just took a huge break from YouTube. But during that time, I wanted to make a sketch just like this, which was like Artman239 versus Zeke, just the two standing there looking at each other. And my whole idea, which I don't know if I clarified this at the beginning of the video, but if you guys can't tell, it's been like 2-3 days since I first started doing this. I took a bit of a break. At first, I just contemplated doing Artman239 and Zeke, but I was like, I'm still here though. You got the Sandman. That's not bad. The Sandman. So you got Artman239, Zeke, and then Sandman. I was thinking it'd be really cool, because I clarified this at the beginning. The context would be kind of odd to be like, oh, this is where I was and this is where I am now. But I'm not there now. You know, I'm done with Zeke. Zeke is essentially retired at this point. Why not just do my entire YouTube journey? You know, I had 3 major points in YouTube. Why not just do them all? So I did me now, I did me as Zeke, and then me as Artman239. So the ages are like 13, I'd say, about 17 or 18, and now I'm 20. It's cool to see a piece like that, you know? I love sketches where it's like you can only really do the sketch as a sketch, you know? It's one of those, you know? You can't really recreate this as a real picture, and I love those pieces. They're so fun for me to make because you just get that feeling that you truly are creating something original. But those were the pieces that I made. This was my little throwback video. This was Carter Sandman with Sandbox Illustration. Make sure to check in the description for links to more of my content. Please like the video and comment on it, and subscribe for weekly art-related videos. Anyways, have fun, dudes.